Greetings. Now, in this next episode of How Economists Are Damaging Your Future, we're going to examine how telework and working from home has really driven a lot of PhD economists and other people who call themselves economists into a frenzy of confusion. They're very opposed to working from home and telework because, as a classic technological disruption, just like Joseph Schumpeter might have described, something that was costly and unproductive, in this case, spending 2 to 3 hours a day commuting, and the cost that the business bears in maintaining an expensive office was disrupted by technology, in this case, the natural progression of the internet. The takes that economists have on this are very, very wrong, and I will show you 2 examples of that. For the first example, we'll go to a clip that I recorded recently. A lot of PhD economists, they come up with the bright idea of another 5% income tax increase on people who work from home. Why? So that we can preserve both the restaurants that exist near office spaces and we can preserve the jobs of daycare center people, because if you work from home, many parents, God forbid, they can actually spend more time with their children. Now, only a PhD economist could possibly come up with something that bad. I would argue that a society where a large number of children are in daycare is doing something wrong. Yet a PhD economist wants to increase taxes by a non-trivial amount, 5%. Remember that if you're already under 50% income tax, a 5% increase reduces your take-home pay from 50% to 45%, so your take-home pay falls by 10% because the top level bracket rose by 5%. This is the type of thing that a PhD economist often comes up with. In this case, it was the chief economist at Deutsche Bank. What a horrible idea. God forbid that parents might actually be able to spend more time with their children. So they were talking about taxation as a penalty for the privilege of being able to work from home, not seeing it as future economic progress. Now, for the second example, we will go to a LinkedIn post. Over here we see a person who is a chief economist at TKA Analytica, and we go to his LinkedIn profile background. Education, PhD candidate in economics. So I don't know what candidate means. Does that mean he did not complete his PhD? I don't know. Most people would hold that against him, but I don't, because I have said a PhD in economics is actually not a good degree in terms of a well-rounded education. So this guy is in fact a victim himself, because he pursued a degree program in a field that is largely bogus and very theoretical and teaches people to believe that they can be an expert on any subject when in fact they don't even know much about economics. So see his comment. The first half of his comment is pretty generic. The pandemic changed the way we work, so on and so forth, talking about a Wall Street Journal article. But now he adds his own commentary, which is funny. However, I think there is an additional cost that will be much higher in the long run, our sanity. The impact of our mental health is also a hidden cost of remote work. We must be mindful of these consequences. Now, most people would consider working from home and not being stuck in traffic 3 hours a day, or not commuting on a subway and being worried about muggers, robbers, and other dangers of public transportation, or the toxic environment of an office and being under artificial light for so many hours a day as positives, but he says those are negatives. Being in your own home is supposedly bad for your mental health. Being in your own home with your family, using your own bathroom, no artificial light during the daytime, all these things are supposedly negatives. And what makes him an expert on mental health? So my comment, of course, is something I just had to write. The impact on our mental health is also a hidden cost of remote work, in quotations, because that's an excerpt from what he said. My retort was, only a PhD economist could come up with something so absurdly anti-human as the claim that being stuck in traffic for 10 plus hours a week is in fact a positive for mental health. Also, these pro-office people seem to think commuting takes no time or expense, Star Trek-like teleporters. The 1999 film Office Space was not meant to be a how-to guide, and it was the most liked comment, of course. If you read the other comments, you'll see most of them are tearing him apart and agreeing with me that how can working from the environment of your own home be a negative for mental health, while commuting to an office is seen as a positive? Nobody likes to commute unless it's very, very short. It's 10 plus hours a week. And again, we're not talking in binary of never going to the office, but I maintain that in knowledge-based industries, 60 to 70% of all workday instances are now work from home, and I recently ran a poll on LinkedIn to corroborate that. But this is what PhD economists do. They have a huge overconfidence that they know the answer in every field, including mental health and psychiatry, based on having a PhD degree in economics or close to a PhD. The overconfidence they have is truly something else, but this unfortunately affects how the government addresses problems. A 5% tax on people who work from home is something the government would love to implement, and they have economists who will produce reports saying that this is a good thing when in fact it will cause a lot of harm in the economy. Thanks for watching.